On July 24th, 2025, the world lost a giant. Terry Bollea, the man everyone knew as Hulk Hogan, passed away, and for so many of us, it felt like part of our childhood was officially over. As the news spread, we all started looking back at his legacy. We remembered the man who could lift a 500-pound giant over his head. The man who convinced an entire generation of kids that if you just said your prayers and ate your vitamins, you could get 24-inch pythons. He was a real-life superhero. There are some other things, controversies, but that's a topic for another video. But in this one, as we remember this absolute legend, we have to talk about one of the weirdest and funniest parts of his career. There was one thing that Hulk Hogan, one of the biggest stars on the planet, could never, ever do: act his way out of a paper bag.
You suck, you jackass.
Howdy, and thanks for clicking on this video to see what this jackass has to say. I appreciate ya. If you're new here, my name's Chris, and I like to do some deep dives and unnecessary film analysis.
Good for you.
Feel free to like this video at your own discretion. Anyway, back to this video. Now, when the Hulkster decided to trade the wrestling ring for the movie set, everybody thought he was about to become the next Schwarzenegger or the next Stallone. But instead of our own Terminator or Rocky, we got Mr. Nanny. We got Santa with muscles. His film career is a museum of movies that are so bad, honestly, they're actually incredible. So what exactly happened? How did the most charismatic man in entertainment fail so spectacularly at conquering Hollywood? Today, as we look back at the life of an icon, we're doing a deep dive into the strange, hilarious, and kind of sad movie career of Hulk Hogan. From the one role that promised him everything to the Tutu that brought it all crashing down. To really get why everyone thought he'd be a movie star, you have to understand just how huge Hulkamania was. Before Hogan came along, wrestling was just kinda gritty. It was something your dad or great uncle might watch, but it wasn't for everyone. Then Vince McMahon found Hogan, this charismatic 6'7" mountain of muscle from Venice Beach, and everything changed. He made Hogan the champion, and Hogan held that title for 1,474 days. For those of you who don't have a calendar and don't feel like pulling out a calculator, that's over 4 years. He built WrestleMania, the Super Bowl of wrestling, on Hogan's back. If you were around for WrestleMania 3, in front of 93,000 people, he body slammed the 500-pound Andre the Giant. It's one of the most famous moments in sports history, period. The guy was a cultural phenomenon. And then when people started to get a little tired of the red and yellow good guy, he did the most shocking thing possible. He turned his back on the fans. He went to the rival company WCW, traded his classic colors for black and white, and became Hollywood Hogan, the leader of the evil New World Order, or NWO. And guess what? He became even more popular as a bad guy. Inside that wrestling ring, the man was an absolute genius. He knew how to tell a story. The problem was a movie script's a little different from a wrestling match. His first big shot came in Rocky III back in 1982. He played the part of Thunderlips, a massive wrestler who fights Rocky in a charity match. And honestly, it was the perfect role for him. He was essentially playing himself, but turned up to 100. He was loud, he was huge, and he was charismatic as hell. He didn't have to do much acting per se, he just had to be Hulk Hogan, and you know what? It was awesome. The movie was a smash hit, and it put Hogan on the map for people who'd never seen a wrestling match in their lives. The stage was set. Then in 1989, he finally gets his own movie, No Holds Barred. It was produced by the wrestling company itself, so you can probably guess what it was like. He played a character named Rip Thomas, who was a super popular wrestler that everyone loved. Kind of sounds familiar, right? The bad guy was a greedy TV executive who wanted Rip to wrestle for his network. To promote this movie, they even had the actor who played the movie's villain, a guy named Zeus, show up on actual wrestling shows to fight the real Hulk Hogan. It was one of the first times a movie and wrestling storyline completely crossed over. Honestly, in an age before social media, it was completely genius. The movie made its money back, but you know what? Critics hated it. I think it's a lot of fun in a very ridiculous way. I've got a lot of nostalgia for it. I grew up watching this movie. But what this did showcase was one of Hogan's big weaknesses. He was just playing a wrestler. Again. And this is where things start to go downhill. The 90s saw Hogan star in a bunch of family movies, and each one got a little bit worse. In 1991, we got Suburban Commando. He played an alien warrior whose spaceship crashes on Earth, and he has to hide out with a quiet suburban family. The idea is that it's a fish out of water story, a big tough guy trying to live a normal life. But the jokes are just not funny. He uses his space-age laser gun to stop a kid from throwing newspapers on the lawn.
Bullseye, smartass.
It was silly and not really in a good way, and the movie bombed big time. I consider it a guilty pleasure. Sue me. Then came 1993's Mr. Nanny. Hogan plays a former wrestler hired to be a bodyguard for two little rich kids who are basically tiny demons. I'm sure you've seen the poster, you've seen the movie. It's him, this giant of a man wearing a pink tutu. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger had just done Kindergarten Cop a few years earlier, and it was a big hit. So why didn't it work for Hogan? I think it's because when Arnold was in the movie, you saw him acting like a cop trying to deal with kids. When you watched Mr. Nanny, you just saw Hulk Hogan in a tutu. There was no character. It was just the Hulkster looking uncomfortable. Then it gets a little bit sadder. In 1996, he makes a movie called Santa with Muscles. It's often called one of the worst Christmas movies ever made. Have you seen the Netflix films? In it, he plays a bad guy who gets amnesia and is tricked into thinking he's Santa Claus. It's as bad as it sounds. And then the final nail in the coffin was Three Ninjas High Noon at Mega Mountain, which came out in 1998. He wasn't even the star in this one. He was a supporting character in a sequel to a kids movie series that was already past its prime. From headlining WrestleMania to being a special guest in a direct-to-video kids movie. I say that's a pretty big fall. So what exactly went wrong? Well, to figure that out, you just have to look at the guy who came after him and actually did it, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So what's the difference? Well, The Rock understood that to be a movie star, you have to be an actor first. Some might question that, but honestly, that's the path he went down. From his very first movies, he tried new things. He did action, sure, but he also did comedies like Be Cool and serious dramas like Gridiron Gang. He took smaller parts in bigger movies just to learn from other actors. He really worked at it. He learned the craft. How well? Well, that's up to you to decide. The Rock became an actor who used to be a wrestler. Hulk Hogan was always a wrestler who was just happening to be in a movie. You never forgot you were watching Hulk Hogan. And now you see other guys like Dave Bautista and John Cena that just have amazing movie careers. They seemingly have learned the same lesson. They disappear into their roles. Hogan just never could. And look, we all know it's a complicated legacy. There's no way to talk about Hogan without acknowledging the controversies of his later years. The things he said and did that permanently damaged the image for a lot of people. And that's a very real part of this story. The story of Terry Bollea, the man. But for a whole generation, that's not what we see when we hear the opening riff of Real American. We remember the icon. We remember the guy who made us truly believe that if you trained, said your prayers, and ate your vitamins, you can overcome any giant in your life. There's no denying the guy was a force of nature, a superhero who walked out of our comic books and into our living rooms every single Saturday morning. He was bigger than life, and ultimately, I think that personality was just too big for Hollywood to handle. Also, it didn't help that he couldn't act. The movies might have been bad, but the man in the red and yellow created something that will last forever. He brought pure joy to millions of kids, and he built an entertainment enterprise on the sheer force of his personality. He never became the next great movie star, but maybe he didn't need to be. He was already Hulk Hogan. Hey, thanks for taking this trip down memory lane with me. I appreciate you hanging out this long, and if you like what you watch, do me a favor and give this video the old thumbs up. And if you're a movie fan in general, I actually review all the most recent movies over on the shorts section of my channel. So if you want to know what's worth watching this weekend, head over there and check it out. Thanks for hanging out, and as always, the opinions in this video are mine and mine alone, but what do I know? I'm but a mere jackass. I'll try to do better next time. Catch you later, friends.
That talks too much. I'm just a jackass of all trades. Don't know shit.